Top Med Talk.
Well, hello and welcome to Top Med Talk. We are here at the 7th Collaborative Clinical Trials in Anaesthesiology in Prato, Italy. I'm Desiree, Chappell, your host, and I'm joined by my co-host, Andy Cumpstey. Hey, Andy.
Hi from Australia. It's great to be back.
I know, I missed
Very
you.
different environment today.
Yeah, so Andy and Kate Leslie were running Top Med Talk down under. How was it being in Australia?
It was brilliant. I'd never been to Brisbane before, but we had a fantastic 4 days doing Top Med Talk down there.
Yeah.
Lots of really great conversations.
Yeah.
Really great topics, a really great place. And we're going to do more of that today.
We are going to do more of that today. So we've been here just about 24 hours now. We've already gotten in 2 or 3 conversations. So we're right at it. We have been busy. Lots of great content that we're going to be covering. 2 of the attendees here at the meeting we wanted to get a hold of. We've already heard one present about the use of TXA or tranexamic acid to reduce blood transfusion, which is a hot topic, I'm assuming everywhere, but definitely in the U.S.
And in the UK too.
And in the UK. Yeah, absolutely. So we have here, welcoming to the show is Ryan Zarychanski.
Thanks for having me here.
All right. Why don't you, for our listeners, tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Canadian. I'm a hematologist and critical care physician, and I'm a clinician-scientist, and I lead clinical trials locally and internationally.
Fantastic. Now, today you were presenting on a trial that you worked on called Traction. So tell us a little bit more about that.
For sure. As you introduced, tranexamic acid is definitely having a moment in the world, and it's an inexpensive drug that prevents blood from breaking down clots when there's bleeding. And the blood naturally wants to stop the bleeding. And so this drug can help people stop or mitigate their bleeding. And then I'm hoping to, and our team is hoping to find that it reduces the amount of blood that's needed or the blood transfusions that are given to people who have bleeding in major surgery.
Yeah. Sorry, let me stop you for 1 second, because one of the questions I think at the end was very interesting. They were asking, why are we worried about this? Because we feel like our mitigation strategies to reduce bleeding during surgery, we've done pretty well at that in the OR now. There's still issues, right, that we have to worry about?
Well, for sure. I mean, major surgery takes up or consumes probably about half of blood supplies, almost half. Cancer treatment is the largest, one of the largest consumers of blood otherwise. And our need for blood isn't going down. Like our population's aging, our therapies are getting more complicated, including surgical and non-surgical medical therapies. People need blood. In addition to that, our donor population shrinking, so the blood supply is tenuous. It's scarce. It's a scarce resource.
It's critically low in the U.S. I'm assuming that it's like that everywhere.
So if we can reduce the amount of transfusion, we can not only prevent complications in people, but also have blood available for other therapies that are needed. Surgeries are canceled because there's not enough blood. Cancer treatments are postponed because we can't adequately support people.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about the trial and design and what you've done there.
Oh, for sure. As we heard from our keynote speaker this morning, clinical trials are difficult. They're difficult to do. They're expensive to fund. They're slow to recruit. And they're separated from clinical care. And so we tried our best to tackle a lot of those problems. Jessica does this all the time, by the way, in her trials as well. And so it definitely were kindred spirits there. Yeah. And so what we tried to do is answer this question: if we give tranexamic acid to everyone, just like we give Ancef on call to the OR, it's just a way we do things in the OR. If we give tranexamic acid to everyone with major non-cardiac surgery, can we reduce transfusion, save a proportion of the blood supply, and can we do it safely? And so we just finished a large trial where we enrolled patients who are undergoing major non-cardiac surgery that is defined as a surgical procedure where the risk of transfusion is 5% or greater. And we randomized them to receive tranexamic acid or placebo. We did this as a policy-driven trial, so hospital policies agreed to a large extent to give tranexamic acid or not, depending on the randomized allocation sequence. That changed on a monthly basis in the background, so without the investigator's knowledge. And we did this for just over almost a couple years total in 10 sites within Canada.
Yeah. We
finished the trial just a few months ago, and we enrolled 8,428 patients. We have 3-month outcomes. So transfusion outcomes will be known right now, but the paired primary outcome, paired transfusion, and the second pairing is safety, which is thrombosis, is a 3-month outcome. So we won't know that for just another couple of months as we accumulate the data.
Yeah, fantastic. So we don't have results per se.
Not yet. Not for this podcast that I want to share. But we do have some of them coming in.
Yeah, no, that's great.
We should bring in Jess as well.
Yeah.
So we've got another fantastic guest with us here as well. So do you want to introduce yourself for us, Jess?
Oh, sure. So I'm Jess Spence. I'm a cardiac anesthesiologist and cardiac intensivist. I work at McMaster University in Hamilton. which is, as I said, just outside of Toronto. Nobody else is and I'm a clinician-scientist. I do clinical trials, and I recently finished the Be Free trial, which is a large cluster randomized trial, similar approach to what Ryan's described, looking at the use of benzodiazepines during cardiac surgery and their effect on postoperative delirium.
Yeah, I think we had first met at the Society of Cardiac Anaesthesiology last year, and you were telling me about some of this. So tell us just a little bit more about the trial and looking at that, because benzodiazepines are prolific. I mean, everyone uses them for everything, but definitely in cardiac surgery, they are still around for sure.
Yeah. And people have really, really strong feelings about benzos, both for and against. They're either convinced that they're going to cause delirium, or they're convinced that if patients don't get them, they're going to have intraoperative awareness, which is obviously a devastating complication. And so because based on that dichotomy in practice, that gave rise to our question is does a restricted benzodiazepine approach where you give no benzodiazepines during cardiac anesthesia reduce the incidence of delirium when you compare it to a liberal benzodiazepine approach? And we had a very low minimum requirement of benzodiazepine that people had to give to everybody. People could give more if they wanted to. It was very pragmatic. And really in conducting the trial, as Ryan suggested, what we did is we didn't actually change clinical care. The only thing that we randomized was giving benzos or not giving benzos. Everything else was according to the discretion of the clinicians who are involved in the care of these patients. And so by integrating research into routine clinical care, we were able to duplicate and produce a generalizable result in almost 20,000 patients over the course of about 2 years.
Wow, that's incredible. That's a lot of patients.
And again, we didn't highlight it when you were talking to us, Ryan, but you got large numbers over really quick times as well, didn't you? So
it's true. And for many of the same reasons Jessica, articulated, is that the therapies under investigation were integrated into the process of everyday care within the operating room. You did a great job with that trial.
Thank you. So tell me the dosage on any benzos for cardiac. Because back when I did cardiac, we gave a lot, like 5 to 10 milligrams.
Yes, some people gave a lot. Our minimum dose was 30 mics per kilo, so about 2 to 3 milligrams, depending on the size of the patient. The mean dose, when you look at all of the patients who got benzos, was about 4 milligrams. So small dose.
Yeah, that's not very much.
Yeah, not very much at all.
All right. So, go ahead, Andy.
So for many of our listeners listening, they'll be thinking, I know what RCT is. Patient comes in, they get randomized to treatment A, randomized to treatment B. Off we go. One's placebo, one's the drug. We get the outcome. That's not the design you've just talked us through, is it? And that helped with the recruitment speed, I think, as well, using that different design. So,
in part, and so what we did is rather than randomize individual patients, we randomized hospitals. And like Ryan described, hospitals were randomized to use one approach or another universally in all patients coming in for procedures, recognizing that in some circumstances there may be clinical reasons that would require exception, which we allowed for. And in doing so, because we were looking at an institutional policy as opposed to a patient-level intervention, we were able to successfully argue with ethics boards in all of the 20 participating centers for waiver of individual patient consent. And so all patients coming for surgery in the operating room were included.
So that was the next thing I was going to pick up on. So that waiver of informed consent, I mean, that's a massive benefit from a trialing point of view, isn't it? And you talked about in your talk, Ryan, very well with the time benefit that helped you get. How do we, from a trial methodology point of view, which is a key focus of this meeting, can we use that going forwards? I mean, what are the ethical considerations for that when we're thinking about future trial designs and perioperative spaces?
Well, for sure, it was enabling, and one ethical size does not fit all. Waive consent or altered consent or integrated consent all have a place in our clinical trials, and we have been a little bit slow to the innovative table around ethical models in our clinical trials. The standard informed consent form that has been passed down to us from the 50s and 70s to Helsinki and Belmont are appropriate for high-risk, unknown interventions, and that is what we should be doing. But for low-risk interventions, for which a lot of data exists, in spaces where we may or may not use something as everyday care, where it is impractical, those are all good reasons to think about different consent models, and they can be enabling, and we have to do it in a way that protects the appropriate amount of autonomy given the amount of risk at play.
Yeah. I think that's one of my big questions too. You said using a hospital policy helped with the waiver of consent and things like that. What about compliance with this? Because I can imagine if I said and went into some of my places that I'm sorry, you can't use benzos anymore, it'd be really tough to do that.
Yeah. And that was something that we took into account. Overall engagement was spectacular. So 92% of patients were managed according to policy, so either did or did not get benzos according to their randomization.
Wow, for 20,000 patients.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's really cool. And do you think it was because it was policy, or did you do, I know, Ryan, you had mentioned change management piece, or?
I visited every hospital that took part in the trial and begged and pleaded and presented the data, that showed that really there's equipoise. There's no real meaningful evidence that benzos are good or bad for that matter. And so once you sort of present the evidence in a thoughtful way, clinicians actually were extremely engaged in answering the question and proving themselves right or wrong, according to their predisposed opinions.
Yeah, and knowing that we might have a definitive answer.
Yeah.
Opinions can be strong. How long did the trial enroll for again?
We had to take 2 pauses. COVID, kind of screwed us. So we had to put the thing on hold for a bit, but altogether about 2 years. We did 18 4-week crossover period, so 1.5 years, truly.
So 20,000 patients in under 2 years.
Yeah. How many hospitals again?
20, US and Canada.
Yeah. And Ryan, so your numbers were 9,000 patients?
Yeah, almost 8,500.
I mean, that's huge numbers, isn't it, in really rapid times?
In a year, right? Yeah.
I think sorry,
please go ahead.
No, I was going to say the other thing that Ryan kind of alluded to in his talk too is really, when you think of very large scale trials, you think about the cost, and our total budget was about $850,000 Canadian, so about $600,000 US.
Wow. And Ryan, how about you?
It wasn't as inexpensive as Jessica's. That's amazing.
That's really, really nice to people.
And you make me feel wasteful. The trial was just under 2 million Canadian, and sort of analogous trial, POISE 3, would have been over $10 million. And it's not saying that's inappropriate. I'm just saying that there are, under the right circumstances, with the right risk and the right patient population, the right policies and change management, there are ways that we can do trials differently.
Yes.
And we need to be open to ushering change within medicine, and that includes clinical research.
Yeah. And Ryan, I'm sure it's this similar. I think you had mentioned this, that probably change management for your surgeons, our surgeon colleagues, was a little bit difficult, or no?
Yeah, I mean, people have fixed firm beliefs about things, and as Jessica said, you gotta meet people. You have to figure out who are the champions and who are the local leaders. You have to present the data. These are all smart individuals, and sometimes people will still have fixed firm beliefs, and that's okay. Well, so then we hope that for the sake of an answer that will endure for a decade or more, we can suspend our beliefs for the short period of a trial, for a year of enrollment or a couple years of enrollment, so we can inform practice not only locally but around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, I know we have to get back into session in 2 minutes, so I wanted to thank you so much for all your work. When can we anticipate results?
I'm presenting them tomorrow morning.
Exciting.
When will they be out there in
the domain?
To be determined.
Yeah, exactly.
Traction will have, hopefully, its results in the public domain by the end of the year.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, we look forward to it. Hope we can have you back on Top Med Talk to hear.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think both of these trials, we can find more information online about them, right?
Yeah, sure. We both have groovy websites.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah.
The websites are looking really good. I was checking them out.
Really nice logo.
Yeah, that's what it's the logo and the name.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for being here on Top Med Talk, and thank you for listening to Top Med Talk. We'll catch you again later here in Prato. Cheers.
Top Med Talk. Thanks for downloading Top Med Talk. Don't forget to subscribe. Check us out on YouTube and, of course, on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and X. Also, it's important to remember that Top Med Talk is the broadcasting arm of EBPOM, evidence-based perioperative medicine. We'd love you to find out more about that, and the way to do that is ebpom.org. Check out our website and find out about some of the incredible conferences we're going to be arranging across the year. ebpom.org.